Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Now today's video is gonna be a story time kind of setting. I promise I will try my best to not make it boring. We're just gonna see what happens though. The backstory is that this past week, or these past 7 days I should say, have really just been not great for me and my fish, and we're gonna get into all that in a little bit. Multiple stories stacking on top of each other. It wasn't fun. But we should first start off what happened last week, and it actually started with a video that you guys never ended up seeing. So as you know, I have a koi pond in my backyard. Well, I went to a PETCO that was like an hour and a half away, and they had these pond plant bulbs, and the idea is you take this little like pre-packaged plant bulb, you put it in the bottom of your pond, it comes in a pack of 3 for like 17 bucks, and then they grow plants to the surface and it's super pretty. Well, I bought those, made an entire introduction video, getting them all set up and planted and good to go, and none of them grew. Not a single one sprouted. Nothing, just nothing. So that was fun, scratched that whole video, whatever, we moved on. But then a few days later, I went ahead and filmed another video. Now this video was like a couple months in progress. You guys have already seen it. It's the breeding fish outside video, where I got some gold white club minnows, threw them in a tank outside, and they're gonna breed and do their thing. Well, in that video, I got 3 baby bristlenose plecos for $7 a piece, $21 total, at a local pet store. And in the store, they looked fine. They were very, very small though. Keep that in mind. Now, I already have a molly breeding tank, and it was a little too cold outside to put the plecos in the breeding tank outside. So what I did was I took these baby plecos and put them in my molly breeding tank. And my molly breeding tank had a ton of baby mollies. There's other bristlenose plecos in there. It's a very happy, thriving little tank. Well, these 3 baby plecos, one of them in the bag on the way home from the store, dead, gone. Okay, down to 2. So I put these 2 plecos in that tank. They look weird and they look lethargic, but you know, whatever. I just thought maybe coming from the fish store, they just need to eat. Gave them a whole bunch of food, and everyone seemed to be doing good until I looked at them just a little bit closer. And what I thought was a normal bristlenose pleco coloration of kind of like spots, it wasn't. It was ick. So I put 2 fish covered in ick into my molly breeding aquarium. And now I'm gonna be honest with you guys here. I have not dealt with freshwater ick in at least a year, maybe 2 years. So I'm digging through all my medications. I'm doing the absolute most, trying to figure out what we're gonna do, because at this point, all the fish have ick. Like one day, next day, all the fish have ick, both plecos dead. And I'm like, okay, great. So originally I was gonna do a salt treatment where I just put a ton of salt in the water and let it do its thing. But there was live plants in that tank as well. So that was gonna be a problem. So the first thing I did was I started dosing fungus cure, because it was what I had. One of the mollies had like a little fluffy tuft of fungus, I'm gonna assume, on the top of its head. So I went ahead and dosed fungus cure, and I also went ahead and dosed Marineland ick medication because it's what I had on hand. This is the fungus stuff I used, by the way. It didn't even work though. The fungus never went away. Whatever. So I'm letting this ick medication sit there, and it's not helping. Like, the ick is getting worse. So I do a huge water change, and I kind of change up my plan of action, and went ahead and dosed another popular ick medication by TETRAS. At the same time, this fungus was taking over this other molly. This stuff I had let sit for a couple days at this point, still wasn't working. So after that water change, I switched up my plan, did Melafix, Pimafix, and the TETRAS ick cure. Then this leads us up to, I believe, 3 days after letting all of that sit in the tank. No difference. All the baby fish are dying, everyone's covered in ick, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what else to do. 2 ick treatments have not worked. Those were the 2 ick treatments I had on hand, so I went ahead and busted out the aquarium salt. Now, I took all the live plants, separated them into a shrimp tank, because shrimp cannot get ick, and it can only live on those plants for like 7 days before it can't find a host and dies. So I took all the live plants out of the molly breeding tank and put a tablespoon of salt per gallon of water. So 20 tablespoons of aquarium salt into that tank. I basically nuked the tank with salt. A couple of the smaller baby mollies that were covered in ick still died off. However, as of today, which is now about 7-ish days after I saw the first little bit of ick, it might be 8 days, I don't know exactly, this timeline's messy. But I'm happy to report today there are very limited signs of ick, and a lot of the fish that were doing bad are doing much, much better. So some of the baby mollies died to the ick. I'd estimate about 10 to 15 did not make it, and then of course we lost all 3 bristlenose plecos. Now at the same time this was occurring, I walked into my room and I was looking at my 120 gallon saltwater tank. I'll just take you over there. And I'm walking right in here and I see something orange. You can kind of actually see it. That right there is a snail shell, which is really no big deal at all. However, it wasn't a snail shell the first time. So as I went to investigate this general area right here, I found my clownfish that I've had for at least 3 years now, dead. My biggest clownfish, dead, upside down on the sand. No visible trauma, no ick, no sickness. Was literally eating the day before, dead. The other clownfish in the tank is still doing good, and all the other fish are doing fine as well, so I really have no idea what happened. This clownfish I actually rescued from a literal trap house in probably the most disgusting saltwater tank I've ever seen. I wish I took pictures, but that was 3 years ago.
The ghetto! The ghetto!
And I don't know how old it was then. It could have just died of old age, but to go from eating and doing great literally the day before to dead the next day, total shocker.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
He used to love swimming in and out of the anemones with the other clown. They were so happy together. I really have no clue why he died. And I still don't to this day. So that obviously was another huge bummer, but this leads us to the final thing, the final straw, the inspiration for this video, back to the koi pond. So a few months ago, I got this koi for my koi pond from a pond store about an hour and a half away from me. It was a premium koi. It was like 30 bucks. It was about this big. It was expensive, but it had pretty coloration, and in the store it looked good. Well, I got it home, and if you know the koi I'm talking about, you kind of know where this is going, but his spine was a little bent, so instead of being like this, it was like this. So his head was bent, his eyes were bent, like his whole body was just bent. But he was still eating and doing fine. He was just very, very skinny. So I made it a point of whenever I would feed the fish, I would put a whole bunch of koi pellets next to him, and he would totally eat them just fine. Until one day I came out and he was sitting on the bottom of the pond. So I went ahead and tried to like move him around with the net, and he started swimming again. I actually took pellets and was like throwing them in the water to like get him to sink down towards him, and he would not eat. And then the next day I found that koi dead. Oh, and on top of that koi dying, it's spring now. The plants in the pond are starting to come up, but algae is also starting to come up. So my pond in total looks absolutely disgusting. I hate it. There's so much algae. It's so disgusting. It's literally the most annoying thing ever, but I don't know how to get rid of it. It happens every season, and the pond just looks like a swamp at the bottom. But other than that, I'm doing great. The rest of the fish are doing great. I guess this does go to show that nobody's perfect. Fish do die. Everyone has their problems when it comes to aquariums or in the aquarium hobby. Not everything's easy, not everything's smooth sailing, and that's okay. It's just something I have to get over, and that everyone will have to persevere through their own challenges. But that is going to be it for this week's storytime video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. Do not forget to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.